Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin.
Dazzling winter lights streamed through Ben's bedroom window, and a cardinal sang on the tree outside, as though nothing in Ben's world was amiss. Ben scowled at the window and shut the blinds. Insulted by the outward cheeriness that was in such contrast to the anger he felt within, he went over to his nightstand and turned off the alarm that hadn't sounded yet, eagerly awaiting the moment when he could step onto the bus and escape the tension from the cataclysmic night before. With a yawn, he rubbed his stuffy, sleep-deprived eyes, changed, and got everything ready for the day.
Ben, honey, breakfast is ready.
Penny called from below. His stomach did a flip.
Ben, don't ignore your mother. Not when it's maple syrup pancake day.
Ben did a double take. Had his father just tried to entice him with pancakes? Knowing that if he ignored his parents any longer, he might evoke the wrath displayed the night before, he reluctantly slunk out of his bedroom and drearily made his way downstairs and into the dinette.
Good morning.
His mother sang from the kitchen, where she was washing pans and silverware, a dark bruise on her arm. He sat down opposite Dave, who was hidden behind a ginormous newspaper and already dressed for work.
Did you sleep well, sport?
He asked offhandedly. Ben felt truly mocked.
Well, how about it, son?
He added, with a sharp look from over the top of the paper. It was a little difficult to take him seriously when the headline read, "Man claims dog gave him a mouth cancer," with a picture of a tiny old man holding the leash of a colossal mastiff. Ben scoffed and took a bite from his mountain of pancakes.
Gee, I don't know. You tell me.
What are you talking about, dearie?
Penny asked from the sink. A fake plastic smile stretched across her face.
Yeah, what are you talking about, Ben?
Dave demanded.
I sure don't know what you're talking about. You might want to check your memory.
Ben stared at him a moment before tentatively nodding his head.
So?
Dave continued.
How about it, sport? Did you sleep well?
Yes, sir.
Good.
He smirked, taking a cocky sip of his coffee.
Didn't let the bedbugs bite, did you?
Penny trilled, followed by a shrill laugh.
No, ma'am.
Say sport.
Dave said seriously after a moment, folding up his newspaper and leaning sternly across the table in a way that put Ben on edge.
How about I drive you to school today? Sound like a plan?
I think I'll ride the bus today.
Ben answered calmly.
But
Dad, I want to ride the bus.
Dave leaned back into his chair and tapped his fingers on the table in agitation for a moment before getting up. A violent jerk of the bus yanked Ben from his light slumber. The warm winter sunlight passing through the dusty window of the bus sent him into a much-needed doze. He glanced around himself for a moment before leaning his head against the window and closing his eyes, eager to fall back asleep. Something seemed off. He tried to ignore the feeling, but something tugged at his mind, something that shouldn't be there, though he wasn't sure what that was. Picking his head back up, he took in his surroundings more carefully. but his lungs suddenly took a sharp breath, and his blood turned to lead. Daniel Mortley sat in the third row from the front, on the left-hand side of the bus, just where they used to sit before he'd been killed. He stared hard at Ben, with features perfectly intact. No, it couldn't be him. Surely it was just another nightmare, and the bus would crash in an instant, and Daniel would die before his eyes for the 1,000th time. His eyes became hot and wet, and when he blinked, tears rolled down. But maybe, just maybe, if he could go up to Daniel and save him from whatever was about to happen, then he wouldn't have to watch him die again. Standing up with every ounce of courage, Ben ambled his way up the aisle and over to Daniel. But when he blinked, Daniel was gone, like a dull flame extinguished in the night. A violent jerk of the bus yanked Ben from his slumber.
You gonna eat that pork chop, Ben, or just let it rot?
Dave demanded over dinner that night. Ben shrugged his shoulders and prodded at the pork chop absently.
Well, you're not getting up until you eat everything on your plate.
Dave added.
So, I'd go ahead and finish it now, so it doesn't get cold.
Ben didn't say anything. He wasn't listening. His mind was elsewhere, in the realm of dreams. He'd been in emotional distress all day. The shock of believing for a moment that Daniel had been there, not at his brain.
Ben!
Penny shot, jerking Ben out of his trance.
Listen to your father.
What?
Ah, you better watch your tone.
Dave warned.
You had a piss-poor attitude all damn day, and I don't appreciate it. Do you have any idea how much we do for you? Do you even think about how we provide you clothes, food, and a roof over your head, heating, electricity, a bed?
Not knowing how he was expected to respond, Ben opened his mouth slightly and made an unsure kind of grunting noise.
Guess it's a no then.
Penny muttered. With excessive force, she stabbed her fork into her pork chop and ripped out a bite without even cutting it.
What's your damage, Ben?
Dave asked, his voice starting to get louder.
Are you still butthurt about that prank from last night? Christ, it's called a fucking joke, Ben!
No, sir.
He mumbled.
What? It wasn't a joke? Well, I'm just flat out insulted now. Penny and I weren't the best actors in our high school theater class just to be told we didn't give a good performance by some 10-year-old.
12.
Do you know how much planning we had to do? How much we had to plan out because we thought it'd lighten you up a little?
I meant that what happened last night isn't what's wrong.
Oh, don't give me that shit. I don't believe it for 1 second after that little temper tantrum you threw about it. No appreciation. You know, I asked off early for that. Then we had to turn off all the lights in our cell phones.
Then just sit and wait around for you to come home.
Penny added.
In separate rooms. I had to hide in that bathroom for like an hour while your mother sat in the closet. And then, when you came home, I had to switch rooms without you noticing when you came upstairs. And I had to keep the attic door cracked without you noticing and wait for you to open that closet door in the playroom and knock over a box. And then I had to immediately close the door and switch off the lights with the fuse box. I had to change the lock on that door, by the way, just so that you would knock from the outside. And then I had to push open the attic door and get to the back of it without making any noise. And then I had to wait for your mother's cue and unlock the door and close it again in total darkness and silence and snuck up behind you. Do you see how much effort we put in? And you have the balls to say that it wasn't a good joke? You know what? Give me your plate. Go to bed right now. No dinner for you until you learn to appreciate the things we do for you.
That's not what's wrong, Dad.
Then what is it, huh? Your little friend who got himself killed? Are you seriously fucking trying to tell me that you're upset about that? Because I don't believe it at all. I think you're just trying to get attention. Because I've lost some people in my day, and guess what? I'm a little bummed out. I pay my respects at the funeral, and then I forget about them because they're not in my life anymore. I move on and forget they ever fucking existed. I don't piss and moan for 3 months afterwards, nor would I even if it was my own mother.
Ben clenched his fists and said as evenly as he possibly could.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Dave threw his hands up and Penny threw her fork onto her plate.
Fine. You want to be a little brat? Then you're grounded for 2 weeks. No TV, no phone calls with your friends, no reading, no nothing. You're to come straight home from school, do your homework right here at the dinner table, and go straight to bed after dinner. Maybe then you'll learn some goddamn respect. I don't know. Get the fuck out of my sight. And to think, we tried to be nice to you this morning with pancakes and shit. Why are you still here? Go on, get, for fuck's sake. Penny, I swear to God, this kid never listens.
Ben piddled around his silent room for the rest of the afternoon, not going to bed until he heard Penny come up the stairs to check if he was asleep or not. When he awoke the next morning, he was told he could have oatmeal, though he was reprimanded when he tried to add sugar to it. With apprehension, he climbed the stairs of bus 45 minutes later, desperately hoping that he wouldn't again be lulled into sleep. And even though he was certain that he hadn't fallen asleep, Daniel appeared in the same seat, now glaring at him with a look of utter hatred. This frightened Ben, who, try as he might, could not convince himself that it was a dream. But unlike the day before, he couldn't muster the courage to go up to him, even if it had previously been a dream. But he couldn't turn his eyes away either, until they at long last pulled into the school. He blinked and Daniel was gone.
Man. Oh man. I hate the lunches here.
Jay scowled a few hours later as he cut up a piece of a pork chop.
Hey, you think the pork chops taste like cheese? Or is it just me?
I don't know. Let me try some.
Ben said. He had gone with the barbecue sandwich.
Yep.
Jay shrugged and said,
I'm too hungry to care.
True.
Thomas agreed from across Ben and next to Jay. He had been poking at a clump of wet mashed potatoes. They sat in silence for a minute, staring down at their red plastic trays.
Barbecue's good.
Ben mumbled as Jay aimed his spoon to hit a girl with a pea the next table over.
Nice shot.
Thomas complimented after it smacked her in the eye.
Hey, you okay, Ben? You look like something's wrong.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You sure? You seemed upset yesterday, too.
Ben, what is it?
Jay asked earnestly.
It's just... I've been having these nightmares every night about Daniel.
Their faces grew stony.
And every time he ends up dying right in front of me. Like, you guys remember when we tried to climb the school last summer and how Daniel fell and I caught him?
Yeah.
Thomas said, his cheeks turning red.
Well, in this dream, I didn't catch him. His head hit the dumpster and... yeah.
Jay sighed heavily.
Jesus, man. No wonder. That messed me up too. Having to see that. Like every night. God.
Ben nodded his head and continued.
But yesterday on the bus, I fell asleep and saw him sitting where we used to sit, staring at me. I tried to talk to him, but he disappeared, but I'm not sure if I'm maybe starting to go crazy or if...
What is it?
Urged Thomas. Ben gulped and glanced around him.
Today, this morning, I didn't fall asleep. Like, I know I didn't, but I saw him. Clear as day. I fucking saw him. But this time he was glaring at me like he wanted to slit my throat.
Neither Jay nor Thomas said anything as they nervously scanned the cafeteria, scared that they would see the same thing. Ben joined them, and his heart froze when he saw Daniel sitting at an empty table behind them, scowling at him with the utmost hatred. Ben quickly turned back to them and nodded his head to indicate them where to look.
What?
Thomas asked. Ben nodded his head again, and they only stared at him in confusion.
Behind me.
He hissed. They both glanced at the empty table, but gave him a puzzled look. Ben turned back around himself, and sure enough, the specter of his friend was still there, still as a corpse.
Do you not see him?
He asked, his hackles raising as chills raced down his body.
No.
Jay said with a shake of his head.
Nobody's at that table, Ben.
Are you sure you're alright, man?
Ben nodded his head, but when he looked back behind him, the table was empty. He was glad that it was Friday, for at least now he would be safe from more morning encounters, even if it did mean being stuck at home. But at last he'd managed to sneak the new book he got for his birthday into his room without his parents noticing. Though he was near the end of it, something he was sad to reach. However, he was distraught to see that his torment was not done, when on the way back home, he spied Daniel in the exact same spot once more. He was emotionally exhausted, running on fumes. Ben couldn't deal with this any longer and was angry at whatever the hell it was shooting him death glares. He prepared to get up and talk to Daniel, but was taken aback when Daniel stood up first and made his way down the aisle. His movement somehow unnatural, though Ben couldn't quite place why.
Why?
Daniel demanded.
Why didn't you come with me that day?
Ben was taken aback. How could he have known that he was hit by a car?
If you had just gone to the store with me instead of being in your room, then I'd still be here. That man wouldn't made me get in the truck with him.
Ben was paralyzed, and his mind was empty like an unearthed grave.
Do you know how much he hurt me, Ben? How much pain I had to endure before I died?
Ben slowly shook his head. He was confused.
I wanted to die, Ben. And all because of you.
His voice sounded strangely hollow, not quite like Daniel's had been. It was as if he'd become a shell inhabited by some other entity.
I'm sorry.
Ben whimpered. What was he talking about?
Sorry? Sorry is not gonna be enough, Ben. Sorry. Sorry can't change the past. Sorry can't bring back the dead. And you're dead to me, Ben. Deader than I am to you. And you're gonna pay dearly.
Ben couldn't see him clearly anymore. His vision had become hot and blurry, and the muscles in his mouth were cramped. Daniel smirked.
Tell me, Ben. You haven't happened to hear about a certain book of mine, have you? A black book. A book with a picture of me on the back.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't lie to me, Ben. You can't. I know you've seen it. Maybe you should look again sometime.
What do you mean?
He smirked again, an awful smirk that looked inhuman, and pointed 2 fingers at him like a gun.
Only I.
He said, pretending to shoot him before going back to the seat up front. Daniel once again resumed his glaring, but Ben could not meet his eyes. His heart had been ripped out, carved up with a knife, and shoved back into place upside down. The tears flowed freely, and he couldn't make himself stay quiet. He didn't care that the 2 girls next to him were staring at him in dismay.
Hey, dillweed.
An older boy in the seat ahead of him snarled.
Would you mind shutting up? It really annoys me when I hear babies cry for their mommies.
Ben glared at him but didn't say anything. He only tried to dry his face off.
Who were you talking to anyways?
Without thinking about it, he pointed at Daniel, who was wearing his dreadful smirk again.
Nobody's there, dumbass. What is it? Your imaginary friend? Huh? Does bitch boy McGee still play with his imaginary friends?
Shut up.
Ben growled.
Aw, baby's getting angry. Does baby need a bottle?
I said shut up.
Baby want mommy? Do you need mommy, baby bitch boy?
Ben stood up and took a step forward.
What's baby doing now? Is he gonna tell the bus driver? What's baby?
No,
Ben corrected, ignoring the rock in his stomach.
I'm gonna do this, shithead.
He cocked his fist back and slammed it into the boy's nose with a loud crack, followed by a spray of blood over the kid's mouth. Without thinking, he'd found that he'd imitated the way Dave sometimes hit the wall.
Ah, shit! God fucking damn it!
Ben didn't give him a chance to recover, but instead punching him again in the face, and again and again. Fight, 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 fight! A chorus cried out around him. Though Ben didn't take any notice. His vision was red, and his ears ringing. Hey, what's going on back there? The bus driver demanded from the front, though this too was lost in Ben's rage as he grabbed the kid's head and smashed into the window. He was aware of a loud thud, thud, thud to his left, but he didn't care. He took in one last swing before he felt someone much bigger than him pulling him away. Ben whirled around and decked the bus driver in the gut. It felt too good to stop. If you would like to submit your stories, please check out the Panic Within subreddit. I go over those stories that are submitted, and I go ahead and I narrate them. I say go over, but I narrate all of them. So if you are interested in something like that, go ahead and take a look in the description, and you'll find the link there. We also have a Discord. You can come and hang out and get spooky with me and other narrators. We post new content, up-and-coming videos, promotions, and we also just hang out and chat, and you can come and hang out with us there. If you're interested in that, link is also in the description below. And last but not least, if you are interested in doing a collab with the King of Panic or myself, you can absolutely reach out. If you're another creator, you can do one on our channel, we can do one with you. We are completely open for collab as of right now. Looking for new stuff to do and very excited for anybody who reaches out. The best way to do that is through Twitter or Discord. I do check Instagram and I will get back. It just might take a little longer because I'm super bad at that, but I've been trying to be better. So if you do reach out there, even if it takes a couple days, I'll be there. But like I said, we're excited. So please definitely reach out and we're looking forward to it. And as always, thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.